Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm your host, Earl Beecher. Our guest is Tess Taylor. She is the president and founder of the National Association of Record Industry Professionals. Record Industry Professionals. Tess, who are the people that you classify as record industry professionals?
Record industry professionals are those who work full-time in the record business, people who work at major and independent record companies, and increasingly now with the mergers and acquisitions that have taken over our industry, they are private individuals, consultants who work full-time still in the business, but not necessarily at a record company
Not
anymore.
necessarily on a salary. They're doing their own...
Right, independent consultants. There's been a huge wave of independent consultants created because so many people have been downsized with recent mergers and conglomeratization in the record business.
We are hearing that more all the time in every aspect of business in the country.
It's true. Mergers are the name of the game, and it's disturbing because I don't think our country should permit this type of anti-competitive level of concentration, but it's happening in every industry. Grocery stores, banks, insurance companies, car companies, the record business is unfortunately no exception.
You know, I've been looking at this, and I think it's going to force our society to begin to reach inside themselves and come up with their creativity.
I think that would be a good thing, and I would have to agree. People are going to have to reach inside to find other skills and to not count on the fact that a job is going to be there tomorrow, because the truth is that you can't take a job for granted. No one owes you a job. On the other hand, I personally dislike the way that corporations can sometimes treat human beings. I don't think it's particularly good when people who've given their life to a company are downsized or laid off because
you feel like you're thrown out.
You feel like you're thrown out.
You've been betrayed.
Well, it can be.
And you can feel that anyway.
You can feel that. And what's happening is, most recently in our particular business, Sony and BMG have merged. And what happens as a result of the merger is certain economies of scale are obviously achieved by merging the functions of the two labels. So instead of having two separate distribution systems, they now have one distribution system. And what does that mean? That means that a lot of people lose their jobs. Is that necessarily better? Well, I would argue that it is not. In no way is it better. Apart from achieving certain economies of scale, what you have is less opportunity for artists to get their music out on a broad scale through these major companies.
One of the things, I will confess, I got into the record industry primarily because I was upset by the moral decline that some of the record companies were foisting off on our children. And when anybody sees any reference to myself, it says, don't bother to send me anything with dirty words that encourages people to use drugs or commit sin and so forth. And I've had people, the response has been interesting to see what their react. You're an old fuddy-duddy. And I said, well, you got that right. And then we go from there. But to me, I think since we do have this concentration in fewer hands through mergers, the mass sales, where do our children get the alternatives and the chances to know more than just the one or two images that are being pushed on them?
Well, that's why it's important for people like you to put out music and for people like you to run your independent labels in the manner in which you see fit and put out the music that you think is appropriate. I'm not going to necessarily make a value judgment on certain music here.
I do it for myself.
I personally don't care for shoot 'em up type music either, or anything of that nature. I'm a classical music fan myself. There's certainly a lot in the pop realm that I enjoy and appreciate as well. I think it's everybody's right to choose what he or she would like to listen to, no matter what my personal taste may be.
But to have that right, if everything's concentrated in just a few hands and they say this is the big hit and that's all you listen to.
Well, your right still exists, but the selection diminishes. Now, the good thing,
that's well said.
The good thing, however, is that you now have the internet, and there's a proliferation of music of all types, of all shades, of all colors, of all genres. Any imaginable type of music that you would like to find is available by way of the internet now, which I think is positive. However, what is still necessary is that you must stimulate demand in order to achieve sales. Sales do not...
They have to know you're there.
Yeah, sales do not happen in and of themselves. So that requires a certain infusion of capital, finance, if you will, and marketing and promotion expertise. So fortunately for us, those people with those skills are in abundance in this industry still, even those who have been laid off. And what my hope is that now that many of these people have been ejected from their positions because of the mergers and acquisitions that have taken place, they're going to start bootstrapping it a bit more and be able to market music in a more effective and creative means than they perhaps were able to do before. And I believe that we're going to see a proliferation of even more types of music as a result. Now, this doesn't, of course, do away with the problem that, as you mentioned, the major labels have about 90% of the market share at this time.
Right.
But that market share, I believe, is not going to remain constant. In fact, the market share of independent labels collectively is growing. In the last 5 years, the collective market share of the independent label community now outstrips the largest of the major multinational corporations. And I think that that is a positive.
I do too. Now, your organization sits right in a key spot, as I see it.
Yes.
Because you are where these independent people can come together.
And we're the major
people.
people.
And I want to know more about it.
Well, the National Association of Record Industry Professionals grew out of my desire to have a trade association where people of like minds and like business backgrounds could meet. I personally have a background as a classical pianist. That was my one of my majors in school. I majored in music, German, and literature. But I decided when I graduated that I didn't want to pursue a living as a concert pianist. I felt that it was going to be too much of a crapshoot. I didn't want to have to practice 4 to 6 hours a day for the rest of my life, much as I loved it, for a possible opportunity to be able to perform and earn a living. I thought it was the chances of that were too slim. Besides which, I was very interested in doing many other things. I have an enormous lust for life. I love to travel. I want to see the world. There are many, many things I want to do. I want to write books. I want to, you name it, okay? So I didn't want to be a classical pianist to the exclusion of so many other things. So what I chose to do upon graduation is, rather than pursue...
Where was graduation?
Graduation, well, I attended the University of Vienna in Austria. And took all my coursework in German. I also attended high school in Austria, but I graduated from the University of Redlands, which is here in Southern California.
Yes.
And when I graduated, I moved to Los Angeles and immediately got a job in the record business, in the music business, and decided I would rather just play for fun, which I continue to do, but not pursue music professionally.
Well, now, with this background, how did you wind up forming an organization?
Well, I wound up forming an organization because I wanted to join one and there wasn't one, so I had to form it. And I didn't set out to do this.
That takes a special person to do something like that.
Perhaps so, but it wasn't. It ended up becoming a business for me accidentally. It was never my intent for it to become my livelihood, which it is today. Back then, I was doing it as a lark, just to meet people and to have an opportunity to interface with all of these people who had varied and interesting professional backgrounds. And as you know, as we were talking before the cameras went on, it's critical that you have a good network of people, professional and otherwise, to help you with your projects, no matter how smart you are. And Earl, you clearly have the goods. You have PhDs, you have majors, you have educational and academic credentials a yard long. But it doesn't matter how smart and how great a person is, we all need other people to help us move forward in life, not only in life but in our profession.
I agree with that.
And so I just intuitively knew that from the age of 1. And so I was looking for a trade association to join. My first job in the music industry after graduating from college was at Avalon Attractions, which at the time was the largest concert promoter in Southern California. And I had a fantastic time there. I was going to shows 8 days a week, U2 front row center at the Coliseum.
Oh boy.
And little, rock and roll bands at dive bars like Raji's off Hollywood Boulevard, which unfortunately no longer exists. And the great thing about that job is I was meeting so many people because when a concert is put together and produced, a concert brings together every spoke of the music industry wheel. You're dealing, when you're producing a concert, with the artist manager, frequently with the artist himself. You're dealing with the record company. You're dealing with all forms of media, including radio, TV, and advertising. You're dealing with every possible facet of the music industry. And here I was, not even a year out of college, and I was interfacing with all of these people. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to meet them all sort of in a a trade association setting, or at a cocktail party, or have events where you could go and meet these people. And there was nothing of the sort. So I just started putting these little meetings together. And people heard about them and they wanted to come to the next one. So I started a mailing list. And today, over a decade later, that mailing list is over 60,000 people strong.
Wow.
So that's what ended up happening.
We've got to pause
Certainly.
for a public service announcement. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Tess Taylor, the president of NAREP. Is that the way you say it?
NAREP, if you wish.
Our guest is Tess Taylor, and she is the president and founder of the National Association of Record Industry Professionals. I got it right.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. And Tess, I have heard of you and your organization over a period of years now, and you said it's only, what, 10 years old?
NAREP was formed in 1998.
Okay. So it's not even a full 10 years old yet.
Well, another organization that I also founded and over which I preside is the Los Angeles Music Network, and that was formed in 1988. So that's over a decade old now, and it provided the foundation for NAREP.
So you learned the skills and how to put things together.
Yes.
That is a very special skill, to be able to network like you do. Now, what does a person have to do? Say that there's some young people viewing this show, and they want to break into the industry. How would you suggest that they go about it? How would they become classified as a record industry professional?
Well, if they don't work in the industry yet, they would not qualify to join NAREP, because that is the one criteria to become part of the organization, is that you must work full-time in the record business. If you are interested in breaking into the record industry, I would still recommend that you visit our website and that you look at the materials that we provide and at our job listings, but I would suggest that such a person consider joining or looking at the Los Angeles Music Network, which is at www.LAM, as in Mary, N as in Nancy.com.
Musical Network,
yeah,
LA Musical Network.
The LA Music Network, correct. And
Okay.
the LA Music Network, among other things, features a huge number of job listings and also internships that a person interested in breaking in the industry can peruse, and members of the LA Music Network get access to that information, and we help to place them in positions that are appropriate for them.
Now, are you still heading that up along
Yes,
with
I am.
NAREP?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So there's a synergy that exists between these two organizations. The LA Music Network is basically for artists and creative sorts and people who are interested in breaking into the industry. We have a lot of students who are LAMN members. NAREP, on the other hand, the National Association of Record Industry Professionals, is a professionals-only organization. And 7 years ago, I found it necessary to form the professionals-only organization because we had two disparate number of people in the LA Music Network, and I found it was necessary to separate the pros from everyone else, because
Yeah.
we have basically two different groups of people who have different interests and different needs. So I run these two organizations simultaneously, and yet there are a great many synergies between the two. For example, we will frequently match up NARP members who are professionals with LAM members to mentor them, to help them get into the
Wonderful.
business and to understand the ins and outs of how the business is run. The mentoring is a very important part of what we do. NARP members frequently are panelists at LAM functions and so forth. So we do intermingle from time to time the professionals with sort of the ingenues, if you will, and give an opportunity to the younger professionals rising through the ranks to intermingle with the higher ups in order to gain access. But we also have NARP member exclusive, NARP exclusive member only types of events that you must be a member.
Describe some of these events,
Well,
and
salon-
some of the most exciting ones.
Well, exciting ones. We have panel discussions, we have workshops, we have salon dinners, we have brunches, we have all types of educational programs. The National Association of Record Industry Professionals, as well as the AiL Music Network, both promote education, goodwill, and career advancement in the music and the record industries. We do that by
When
way...
you're talking education, you're on home base with me.
Oh,
of course.
education. I'm so a fan of education. Education, continued education, is the absolute key to career advancement and a fulfilling life.
Now, are some of the local universities and colleges working with you?
From time to time, yes. I have taught at UCLA, and I lecture frequently all over the country, now all over the world. I've lectured everywhere from the Harvard Business School to Caltech, MIT, USC, and UCLA frequently, where I also taught my own class. I'm invited to speak everywhere from high schools to colleges, universities, and societies of every type.
Wow.
I'm going to be in Europe, in Denmark, later this year, addressing a society of songwriters there. I do a lot of speaking at conventions and industry events.
This sounds like your plate is full. I mean,
well, it is.
There's a big demand for this.
Well, I think that education is absolutely critical if you want to maintain your unique value and some sort of cutting edge. And as we were talking before the break about some of the people who've been laid off and what do they do now, especially if they're over 40 years old, well, you got to get back to the basics and improve your skills, gain some new skills perhaps, look at what the marketplace wants and look at what the marketplace needs. Things are changing extremely rapidly. You know, if you were an electrician earning $70,000 a year last year, chances are you're easily replaceable by 3 people from India now, which is what a lot of the telecommunications companies are doing now. They're outsourcing a lot of their work to these extremely bright people from India.
Absolutely.
And from other nations. Call centers all over the world. Have you ever tried to call your credit card company or your bank and you get someone with a foreign accent on the line? Chances are pretty good that that's an international call center.
Yes.
Okay? Companies are trying to reduce their costs and remain competitive by outsourcing a lot of this. So what does that mean for an American? An American really needs to dig deep, as you were saying earlier, and come up with some new skills, because you can't take a job for granted. You're not owed a job by anyone.
Now, with all of this that's going on, and we certainly are on the crest of a whole change in direction in our society, I think. We are getting back to the basics, as you said. You are around major schools and events all the time and reaching out to people. What is the thing they seem to want most to hear from you?
Well, I think access to the business is important, and for those who are in the business, they want access to higher level intelligence, to higher level people, to higher level information, and that is what we seek to provide. We frequently are able, my goal always when I put on a program is to get the top experts in any given field to come speak on that particular topic. I mean, anyone can get, you know, a lower level manager or a director of some sort, and I'm not saying that those people don't know what they're doing, but I always shoot for the CEO and the president. I shoot for the guy who's in charge to come to speak to our program and to address our members, because these people are the decision makers. These are the people who greenlight the projects and who say go, and then the company goes. And I think it's extremely important to know how these people think, to study success, and to understand what the profile of success is, so that you can pattern your own success after that. We need successful models in order to create and advance our own careers and advance our own success. So I always try to pick the very top people in the field. And to answer your question again, what people seek the most, I think, is access and information. And that is what we provide.
Do you have this in written form so that
Oh,
there's a
absolutely.
database that they can access?
Absolutely. I invite people to visit our website, which is, may I give it now?
Please do.
www.n as in Nancy, ARIP.com. That's NARIP.com. And you can subscribe on the website. It's free to receive our free bulletins and announcements about events. We are happy to mail out information to anyone who might be interested. Our telephone number is 818-769-7007. Once again, that's 818-769-7007.
And may I mention,
sure.
My telephone number appears as producer in the credits at the end of the show, so that if you didn't get time to write that down, you can see mine, and if you call me, I'll refer you. So
Thank you, Earl.
With your permission.
Thank you. So we provide all that type of information. We have brochures. We're based here in Los Angeles, but we now have a very active branch in New York City. We have a branch now also in Las Vegas.
Have you got one in Nashville?
We don't have one in Nashville.
I bet it's not long.
It probably won't be long, but we're also gaining steam in London, and later this summer we're going to have activities in San Francisco. So we are growing by leaps and bounds, and what I'm finding is that there's sort of an inverse relationship between what you might call shrinkage of the record industry proper and the growth of this organization. Because
yes.
I think the harder it is for people to maintain job security, the more interested they are in education and in career advancement, because what they're finding is that career advancement is no longer automatic as it may have been at one time in the past.
Right. You really have to be on top of it yourself.
You do.
When you're talking about London, there has been a group contacted me recently called the Big Band Buddies in England, and they have 200,000 members.
Wow.
And they are crazy about Glenn Miller.
Okay.
He is the war hero who came over and gave his life, and they recently purchased the airfield that he took off from the night that he died, and they have built a huge stadium and a museum in his honor that was dedicated this past March for his 100th birth anniversary.
Okay.
And so it's fun to see the American culture is reaching everywhere.
It is.
And we need to do what we can to help our young people get into it and have their own inputs.
Yes, I think music is one of the finest inventions of mankind, if you ask me. And what I think is wonderful is that so many young people today, young, middle-aged, and old people, play instruments and are in bands and perform publicly. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's a vital form of self-expression, and you don't even have to be good to have fun at it. Okay?
I want to put in my 2 cents worth.
Sure.
I am very upset they're taking music out of the schools.
That is bad.
That is bad.
That is very bad.
Because music helps the children to read, to do math, to work as team, to coordinate. All those skills come together, and music brings it together better than almost anything.
I think the public school system is a complete shambles, and I don't even want to go off on that tangent.
Don't get me started.
I won't get you started.
Okay.
But I think it also ultimately comes down to personal responsibility. Your personal responsibility for your life and career, and if you have children, your responsibility for your children. And you are absolutely, as a parent, in my opinion, you must give your child some exposure and access to the arts.
Absolutely.
I was extremely fortunate. My parents, there was no question that was going to happen with us. I've been playing the piano since I was knee-high to a, to a cricket.
But I wasn't in your class.
And we got dance lessons, ballet lessons, art, every type of thing you can imagine, and it's essential to your growth as a human being to have that form of expression open to you. I don't think that classic education necessarily in music is absolutely essential, but it's certainly a plus. And I think some exposure, especially to children at a young age, is extremely important. And I will personally fund that type of education when I have the billions of dollars that NARP will ultimately.
Oh, I hope so for for all of our sakes.
That is an important initiative to me.
Yes,
extremely important.
Yes. I'm not sure whether we have 1 minute left. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you very much for coming and being our guest here.
Oh, my pleasure.
On
Thank you so much for having me.
And if there's ever anything that any of our viewers send to me and say, I want to know, and I can refer it to you, I will let them know. I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I just encourage people to pursue their passions and to make music a part of their life, whether they play or whether they want to work in the business or whether they want to support artists or get into marketing or distribution. There's just a wild and awesome array of careers available to people in the record business if they just educate themselves. And we can put people in touch with other people, professionals in that particular field, or folks who are doing the types of things that they want to be doing. So I just encourage people to seize that opportunity.
Thank you so much for being our guest. Our guest, Tess Taylor, founder and president of the National Association of Record Industry Professionals. And we thank you for joining us, and please join us soon again for more adventures in life.